If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Good morning and welcome into this edition of Rise Shine Manitoba on ASTV Productions. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Monday morning, Manitoba. It's going to be a lot of fun today. We got 4 guests joining the show. We got 2 live interviews. One of them is pre-recorded. We're going to have that in the second segment of today's episode. But yeah, we got some great guests joining us. After the break, we're going to take I guess not a break, but after the intro, we're going to introduce that first guest in today's show. It's the return of a segment called The Farm Report here on ASTV Productions here on Rise and Shine Manitoba. But yeah, you know what time it is, Manitoba. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba because it's time to rise and shine. And as the intro plays, we now transition into moving into the first guest of today's episode. As I said, it's the return of a segment we do here on ASTV Productions here on Rise and Shine Manitoba called The Farm Report. Harry Siemens, he is going to be joining me, of course, as his name is on the segment. And yeah, I'm going to have a chance to ask Harry about all things to do with agriculture and just what's been going on recently in the agriculture community here in Manitoba. So without further ado, please welcoming in Harry Siemens here on this edition of the Farm Report. Harry, thank you so much for joining me on this Monday morning. I talked to you on the phone yesterday, but this is my first time ever seeing you face to face. How are you doing on this Monday morning? How have you been doing?
You know what? If I was any better, I couldn't stand myself. So it's good. I'm doing great. You know what? It's good to be on the show with you, Graeme. And I've been doing this for a few years, and I always love to talk about agriculture because agriculture is the basic industry that we have in the world feeding people.
Yeah, for sure. And you said you've been doing this for a few years, and I mean, like 51st year as a farm journalist. Just how's that journey been up until now?
You know, the journey has been absolutely great. You know, a lot of the things I do, I get paid for, and sometimes you wonder why, as long as those sponsors aren't listening. But at the same time, I did radio for 14 years, and then I went on my own. I've been a professional speaker, a seminar conductor across Western Canada, and then I did a television show for 9 years, and now I'm a freelance farm journalist. I write for 3 farm publications across Canada, and I love it. I work from home, have worked from home since 1985, and so it's good.
Wow, so you started working from home a lot sooner than a lot of people here that I know of, anyways.
Yeah.
Just how's that journey been of just going into radio, writing about farming and just all the stuff that you've been able to do?
The first thing that comes to mind, I farmed with my father and my brother back from 1965 to 1975, but I started the farm broadcasting in 1971. And I learned very quickly that to be a broadcaster effectively and a journalist, you've got to know how to communicate. My father was a very good farmer, and but he only had grade 3 or 4 education, and yet he was so good at it. But I would do a report initially on the radio station, and Dad would say, "Well, what did you say, Harry? What?" I couldn't understand it. And after about 3 times asking me that, here's my best fan, can't understand me. And I decided right there, I'm going to speak so Dad can understand me. And that's how I've always written, talked, whether it's broadcasting, live presentations, and writing. Dad is long gone, but I write and speak so that Dad can understand me. And that's been the key part of my journey. And I've just continued along that basis, learning by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was very proud of you, very proud of what you've been able to do, and with all your knowledge here in the agriculture industry, just in the community, just could you give us the updates of what's been going on recently in the community of agriculture?
Well, the first and foremost, right across the entire gamut, we have record farm prices. We have canola prices over $20 a bushel, and that's unheard of. And it's because we have more demand out in the world for canola and almost every crop than what we have on hand. And then the second biggest thing is, especially here in southern Manitoba, and we've had some rain in various parts of the province over the weekend and last week, but we still have a major drought in the Red River Valley west of the Red River. And it's a major drought. I mean, the crops are in absolute survival stage. Every day we don't get rain, it starts to, they deteriorate even further. I drove to Winnipeg on Friday and I saw far too many black fields where the crop simply hasn't come up because there wasn't any moisture to bring it up. The other thing is technology is one of the key factors driving agriculture. I mean, farming without technology today, I mean, a farmer can have 3 or 4 consultants because the technology is such that, they need people to teach them. But farmers are good learners, and that's good.
Yeah, that's great. And just diving into just the lack of rain that we've been getting. I mean, like you said, we got some here on the weekend in various parts here in Manitoba. But other than that, it's been pretty dry here in Manitoba in terms of rain. Just how would you say that? I mean, it's never easy, I assume, as a farmer. But how would you say farmers have been adapting to the lack of rain?
As they always do. It's the experience. It's getting advice where they can get advice. It's the biggest challenge that they have is to put in a crop. You take an average crop is about $300 an acre. So that's the challenge, and that means planting, seeding, getting the seed, planting, crop protection products, fertilizer, all those kinds of things. So sometimes it's like one person told me, he was taking his banker for a ride early on. He says, and it's here I'm pouring all these production costs, and his banker was the guy that gave him the line of credit. And so he says, I'm pouring all this stuff into dry soil. But at the same time, faith is a big factor, experience, and the farmers have been here before, but this is about as dry as it's been in the 51 years that I've been a farm journalist.
Yeah, and hopefully we do end up getting some more rain. I mean, I love the nice weather. I'm sure you do too, but
Totally.
obviously, yeah, obviously, if we get some rain, it'll help our Manitoba farmers out. Just talking about canola. Just you said that the prices are pretty much ridiculous right now, just of how expensive they are. Why would you say that is exactly? Why do you say the canola prices are so high at this point?
Well, it's a demand around the world. See, we have probably 5, 6 canola crushing plants in Western Canada. I think 40% of it goes as processed canola. The rest goes as raw seed. Japan, China, all the demand for canola. The biggest challenge that we've seen now is because of the plans and the programs that the governments are putting forth, it's becoming part of the fuel sector. It's becoming part of that environmentally friendly fuel sector. So there's a new plant going up in Northgate, Saskatchewan, just inside Saskatchewan on the Montana border. And it's the same company that owns Delmar Commodities here in Winkler. And I had a chance to visit with the CEO out of Minneapolis. And he says, yes, it's using canola oil in industrial fuel. That's been driving the demand and also the consumers who love canola oil. And last year, as one analyst told me, he says we had a little less crop than we had thought, and the demand has been a little bit more than what we've thought. So that means that the demand, when you have so many billions of people in the world, and the demand starts to drop, and there isn't nothing coming forward, then the price goes up.
With your connections just in the industry all across just North America, just getting to talk to all these different people, like you said, you had a chance to talk to an analyst too. Just what's that been like? Just getting to connect with all these different faces in the agriculture community.
Well, I started reaching out to people once I realized that I was in a work that I really loved. So engaging people. I have 28,000 followers on social media. That
Wow.
includes 5,000 on Facebook, 7,300 on Twitter, and another 15,000 on LinkedIn. I publish daily. I reach out. I ask questions. If I need something, some answers, I go to my sources on Twitter. It's probably the best use of Twitter is agriculture and the farmers. So I can get on and I can say, guys, help me, and gals.
Yeah.
And before I know it, I have 20 responses from some of the top farmers. Well, you know what? Right now, we've got 1.5% of the population farming. We have, we basically only have top farmers in the business nowadays.
Yeah, and that's great that you're able to connect with the community on a day to day basis. It seems, or like any time you need on a place like Twitter, which is great. Last question before I let you go. How would you say that COVID-19 has affected the way that the agriculture industry runs at this point?
First off, COVID, because farmers are social distancing, there's only,
Right.
the farmer and maybe a son or a daughter or hired hand. So they're social distancing. So their biggest challenge was, if we're going into spring seeding, was if any one of them would get sick and have to isolate for 12, that could be the entire seeding time, because it doesn't take that long to put in a crop. So that's number one. But it doesn't happen. I think we've been okay. But at the same time, in livestock, farming isn't only crops. It's also cattle and chickens and hogs, and we had some shutdowns of processing plants, like a cattle plant in Alberta, a hog plant also in Alberta. In the United States, they had to shut down because they had COVID, and so all of a sudden you have pigs. The Brandon plant, the maple leaf plant in Brandon, takes 85,000 pigs a week. And if they shut down 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, that means those pigs are backing up. You can't put live pigs on the shelf. They've got to first be
Yeah.
processed, right? So
Right.
so we've been fortunate. That caused some hiccups early on for our livestock production, but I believe the whole issue of demand probably has come in part from people staying at home and making their own meals, and the restaurants are closed at many places. So that's increased, I believe, the demand. But the whole thing has shifted, and now it's shifting back. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, Harry. It was so nice to be able to chat with you for the first time ever here as my time doing Rise and Shine Manitoba. We hope to stay in touch consistently on a week-to-week basis and get the update on what's going on in the agriculture community. I thank you so much for joining me on this Monday morning.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the show. You're off to a great start, Graham.
I appreciate that, Harry. It means a lot from a guy that has so much experience in I guess, the reporting industry stuff like that. So I'm gonna let you go now, Harry. We're gonna go to our first commercial break here in today's episode, and I'll be back with you guys with some more Rise and Shine Manitoba. But first, a word or a message from one of our sponsors.